Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto where
Welcome to episode 1622 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. Building Toronto's Skyline, a podcast and book from Nick Iones from Fusion Corp. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, making his Toronto Mic'd debut, is that possible? It is Bob Wegner. Welcome, Bob.
Mike, thanks for having me.
We met for the very first time in the living room that belongs to FOTM Blair Packham.
That's right. Yeah. That was a wonderful party.
Now, okay, so I meet you and you're talking to me about, you're a great musician, and then you wrote a book on Max Webster, and you're a fascinating guy. And then at TMLX, I think it was TMLX 15, I saw you there at Great Lakes Brewery.
Yeah. I ran to Rob Pruce first, and then I ran to you.
So, yeah, Rob Pruce, we'll get back to him in a moment. But so did you become an FOTM attending TMLX events because we met at Blair Packham's house, or was there another channel by which you discovered the TMU?
Yeah, this other channel you allude to is a friend of mine, John DeFeria. He mentioned the FOTM verse.
Say this last name again, John
DeFeria.
DeFeria.
Yeah, he's a wonderful friend in Toronto, and so he took me out to this event and enjoyed the La Palma pasta and met a whole bunch of new friends and saw lots of old friends.
And now you're a beloved member of the Toronto Mic'd universe.
It's a wonderful universe. I looked at the list of the names of people you've had on here, and I listened to a bunch of the episodes throughout the week just before coming in, and just a variety of people you have is wonderful.
Well, thanks, man. Look, thank you very much. So I think that's wild coincidence, though, because I meet you at Blair, and then it's this other gentleman who kind of drags you to TMLX 15. So at this time, when I'm, in East York and seeing you at Blair Packham's house, and then you're in South Etobicoke at Great Lakes Brewery, you're a Toronto guy. Like, have you always been a Toronto guy?
No, I grew up in Hamilton, and I just listened to your episode with Steve Paikin, and also a Hamiltonian and big Ticats supporter. But I lived in Toronto for a good chunk of about 15 years.
Okay, so you went from Hamilton to Toronto?
Yes.
Okay, but you're not living in Toronto anymore.
No. I just recently took off to Montreal.
So I have questions. So I'll let the listenership know you're a wonderful musician. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Queen, and We Will Rock You, and we're going to talk, of course, about Max Webster, and we're going to cover a lot of ground in this chat. I'm really happy to see you. But I need to know the specifics, like why. So you go from Hamilton, then you spend quite a bit of time in Toronto. That's where I met you. You were living in Toronto. And then very recently you decided to up and move to Montreal. So give me some details, like why did you move to Montreal? What is it like for somebody from Hamilton and Toronto to now find themselves living in Montreal? Bury me in some details here.
Oh my goodness. Well, I've just always loved that city. And it was as simple as a friend of mine offered me an apartment and I couldn't say no. I love the place. It's not like I'm in Mongolia. It's just Montreal. And I'm still here every month or two. And because I always have my Toronto ties, and I'm
so you do make your way back to the 416 every month or so.
Yeah, and the 905 if they're
even
so
the
fortunate.
905, because that's where Palma Pasta is, in the 905.
That's right.
Okay, so how's it been going? So how long have you lived in Montreal now?
Oh, just about 2 or 3 months. Not very long.
That's exciting to me that you're still kind of fresh there. So how quickly did you adapt? Did Do you know any French? How is life going in Montreal for
Je
you,
parle un
Bob?
petit peu français, but everyone speaks English in Montreal. I think I've met literally one or two people who don't. And that probably wasn't the case 20 and 30 years ago, but now it's just very anglicized. You leave the city, that's a different story.
Right.
But I've always loved it there, and there's a great music scene, and I live in Westmount. It's just a really nice space, and it's just quieter. I think I just got to a point in my life where I needed a little more quiet.
Okay, so it's going well.
It is, yeah. I mean, as
Like
a
you're not going to come back anytime soon. You're going to make a go of this.
I'm here right now, but I mean, the
Yeah,
thing
you
is, but
are.
as a as a musician and a writer and a freelance editor, just a lot of these things, just you can just be in any place, really. Kind of the digital nomad
Okay.
thing going on.
And have you made a new group of friends in Montreal?
Oh, I've got older friends there, but yeah,
yeah.
I'm meeting a few people there now. It's
Have
slow
you bumped
burn.
into Sam Roberts?
No, not yet.
How about Amy Milan from Stars, another Torontonian who made her way to Montreal?
Oh, I didn't know she ended up there. No, I haven't run into her.
Okay, well, let me know if you bump into any other rock stars in Montreal.
Yeah, I will.
Gino Vanelli's not living there anymore.
Gino, where did he end up then? Where did he end up?
L.A. or something?
Oh,
I think he's in
unsurprising.
California or something. I think so. I got to get an update.
Was it
from
after
him.
his wife died and he just kind of had to keep going?
Well, so I
guess?
only learned about this. So I believe Gino's wife passed away in like May or something, but I only got word from Mark Weisblot reported it to me like this week.
Yeah, I saw it, and it's the write up he did for his wife is just probably the most beautiful thing I've ever seen someone write to their partner who just recently passed. If you haven't seen this, free marketing for Gino Vanelli here, but it's a really
listen,
nice
you
thing.
know what? We do free marketing for FOTMs, and much like you are now an FOTM friend of Toronto Mike, Gino Vanelli is a beloved FOTM.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Oh yeah, he sat down here with his guitar. I would ask him like questions like about his flight in from Montreal, and he would break into like, "Wild horses could not drag me away from you." So you don't have a guitar though.
I did not come prepared with a guitar.
Okay, but I see you have luggage. So did you come straight from like Union or something?
I was in Hamilton for a couple of days, seeing some friends and family and stuff.
Okay, you were in the home. That's where Ralph Ben Murgy lives now.
Oh yes.
So I got a note. Oh, Ralph doesn't listen to this show, but I got a note this week from Ralph Ben Murgy. We should have, I don't know how he worded it, but basically he was asking for a double date, like my wife and I and him and his wife meeting somewhere. And I'm thinking like I'll do this. Like I'll have this double date. This might be fun, but I'm not going to Hamilton for this. Like that's my thought. It's like, oh God, he's in Hamilton. Like, do we meet in the middle? Like, do we meet in Burlington or something? Shout out to Rob Pruce. And then I'm like, where are you thinking, Ralphie? And he's like, well, if it's a Saturday night, we don't mind heading to Toronto. I'm like, done. We're going to do
Perfect.
this in Toronto on a Saturday night. I'll report back to the FOTMs listening how my double date goes. Ralph, his wife, Courtney, and my wife, Monica, and I. And this is, maybe I should live stream this thing.
Live stream a double date.
Yeah, what do you think?
Oh well, you're tapping into.
Will
a
you tune
pretty-
in from Montreal for the double date?
That'd be
live stream?
fabulous because that's a market that needs to be tapped into, the double dating voyeur market.
But wouldn't you want to hear the conversation that will take place at that table?
Well, plenty would, of course.
Okay, I brought up Ralph. Why did I bring him up? Yeah, because he lives in Hamilton, and you were just in Hamilton. So
Yes.
here you are now. Montreal's going well for you.
Mm-hmm.
Pruce has come up twice now, and he'll probably come up again in this conversation. I think about Rob Pruce 24/7, like any sane person, right? But we talk about how he was like a piano prodigy. Okay, like CBC was putting him on TV when he was like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old or something. And then, of course, he's in the Spoons by 50. And like we talk a lot about how very young age, Rob Pruce is a tremendous pianist.
Mm-hmm.
I said pianist. Gotta be
I
careful
didn't even
on that one.
go there. My dirty, dirty mind.
I make sure I nail the T on that word. But Bob Wegner, take me back. I understand you were similar in that at a very young age, you had some musical talent developed.
It basically was all in by about age 13. And then about 10 years later, I find myself in a room auditioning for the remaining members of Queen.
Okay, so when do you start playing piano, for example?
Oh, piano, I'm about 5, and I'm just taking piano lessons as anyone does, and it's not really a serious thing. It's not until I grab the guitar that I start to realize this is a thing I really
Okay.
want to do.
So you're like many kids, you're taking piano lessons. Did you enjoy piano lessons at 5?
I did not enjoy it. I would say that my little recitals I did in kindergarten and stuff made me stick out, and I guess I was comfortable with being a performer. But then I remember being in a giant choir on, I haven't thought of this in years, at the Sky Dome. I was 7, and I'm a huge Blue Jays guy. If you want to talk about that, I love the calendar on your wall.
The 1986 Shoppers Drug Mart calendar is stuck on May because that was the George Bell month.
Well, and not from 1987, so correct decision. And, that was a great episode too, by the way.
That's Garrett Joyce who did that. Gotta give props to Garrett Joyce. The collapse, or the fall of 87.
Fall of 87. That was beautifully put together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish I could take credit for that production.
Well, maybe next
But
time.
I am sharing it with the Bob Wegners and the masses. But shout out to Garrett Joyce.
Yeah. You did a great job with that. But I was on the field. I was 7, part of a large choir singing the national anthem. And that was in 1990. So those were the days when they were getting $4 million a year.
Yeah.
And I remember not even looking up higher than the 100 level. And just looking back on that, it's amazing I became a performer.
So you were like stage fright? You were nervous?
I don't even know how I can characterize it. I remember far more enjoying just walking by the bullpen. I'm pretty sure I saw, was Mike Flanagan still in the Blue Jays in 1990?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm pretty sure I saw
The late
him
great?
warming up in 1990. So yeah, I was 7 years old. And then we had these seats in the 500s, and the game was not memorable. Actually, I went to some MLB database recently just to look up that game, and the result, it was a one-hitter for the Red Sox, and it was just not an enjoyable game as a Blue Jays fan.
One hitter. Okay. Now, 90 was a tough year because we won the pennant in 89, and then we won the pennant again in 91, and then we won the World Series in 92 and 93, but 1990 was one of those off years.
Yeah, it was. And but that was
It's all your fault, man.
Yeah, well, I take the blame. Let's have it. Just send me the hate mail.
Someone's got to take the hit. So.
Well, I've got thick skin, man.
We'll find out. We'll find out by the end of this hour, Bob, how thick your skin is. So, young man, you're picking up this guitar at 12, and now, because I read a line in your bio, I'm going to read it to you, okay?
Let's have it.
Okay. I picked up the guitar at age 12, and there began my quest to become a professional musician. I officially retired at age 19 and picked up my first guitar teaching job. So are you telling me at the age of 19 you decided being a professional musician might not be in the cards for you? Is that what that means?
No, retired means I retired from the idea of getting a 9 to 5 and definitely want to be.
Okay, you know what? You got to workshop that sentence. That's very, very misleading, that sentence.
Oh,
here.
interesting.
Because I'm completely because we're talking about music here, and you pick up the guitar at 12, and then you begin. Your quest is to become a professional musician, and then your next sentence is, "I officially retired at age 19 and picked up my first guitar teaching job." So my brain thinks, okay, you retired from being like a rock star. Like Bob Wegner, I just had the guy yesterday, Eric Schenkman, who's a founding member of Spin Doctors. You could have founded a band and had a big hit like Two Princes. And then by 19, you realize, okay, I'll go teach because so I misinterpreted that line completely.
That's very interesting.
But I'm not the brightest light on the chandelier, Bob.
This is a no negative self-talk here.
Oh, there's lots of negative.
No negative self-talk zone. Yeah, but not when I'm here.
Not when you're here, okay? We can only talk trash about Bob Wegner. Okay, so you mentioned Brian May and Roger Taylor. I don't know if you mentioned them by names, but these are the surviving members of Queen. So I want to hear this story. I find this fascinating. You had to audition for Brian May and Roger Taylor in order to become a guitarist in We Will Rock You?
Yes, I did. And to be clear, John Deacon's still alive, and he's just not officially involved with the band anymore. But so it's just May and Taylor. But yeah, I was at Cherry Beach Studios with some of the top Toronto players. I'm 23, 24 years old, and as the second edition, you had to pass one round first. And I think that was at the Elgin or Winter Garden Theater.
Okay.
And there it is. You're sitting there waiting, and then in walks Brian May. And I just remember he took a picture of everybody. He's a real photography buff, and such a nice guy.
And good hair too, right?
Oh, yeah, to this day, he's got obviously a great stylist.
Okay, let's not bury the lead here. Okay, now I'm going to talk. I can only be myself, but I have huge blind spot, huge levels of ignorance, exposed often on Toast when Rob Bruce and Bob Willett are my co-hosts, because they're so well versed in like musical theater. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, I might get some of these facts wrong. You're going to correct me, but We Will Rock You, which I sadly missed completely. Like this is how out to lunch I am. But this ran for a couple of years, and almost 1 million people smarter than me attended a showing of this musical in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And you were like, how many guitarists are in this show?
There's 2.
You were one of the 2 guitarists in We Will Rock You.
Yeah.
You must be a pretty damn good guitarist.
Well, Brian seemed to think so, and hasn't balked yet on that.
I have a quote from Brian. You ready to get your tires pumped?
Hey, let's have it.
And I won't do the accent, okay? But pretend I'm Brian May, okay? I'm hugely humbled and grateful for all the wonderful work you put into our show. Thanks and continued thanks, Bob, for giving it your excellence.
Who said that nonsense?
Why don't you get a tattoo with that? And like, and I love that, it's Brian May, but because he's Brian May, he's been knighted. And apparently he's got like a doctorate.
He's Sir Dr. Brian May now.
So the proper title for this gentleman with the great hair is Sir Dr. Brian May. Get a tattoo with that quote, and then, dash Sir Dr. Brian
people
May.
Write in and tell me what font that should be inscribed onto my back.
Okay, let me know.
Yeah, they'll send the notes, okay?
So We Will Rock You runs a couple of years, but it also gets you on Canadian Idol?
Yeah, there was an episode of Canadian Idol where Brian and Roger were the coaches, and our house band for the gig was the house band for the rehearsal scenes, not the show itself. And so the mics were all turned off, so we didn't get to hear what was going on with the contestants, one of which was then 16-year-old, not yet known Carly Rae Jepsen, and she was a sweetheart. And so we just had our 7 songs we had to play, not all of which were in the show, actually. We had to learn a couple other songs, and in different keys, of course, because people have different vocal ranges. And so, yeah, we did that, and we were just kind of hurry up and wait, and we were just there alert.
Where did they film Canadian Idol?
It was the same. It was at the Cannon Theatre at the time, now Mirvish Theatre.
Okay.
And they did the rehearsal scenes right there. And then after that was in the afternoon, then we went for dinner, and then... and they screwed up Roger Taylor's dinner. That's another story. And then
that's the story I'm looking for. How did they screw up Roger Taylor's
I don't
dinner?
remember what the dinner was, but I just remember him not being too pleased.
It wasn't Palma Pasta, was it?
It was not Palma Pasta. He ended up
been.
having to go into the Eaton Center and just got something for dinner because they just got something wrong.
That's too funny.
That's so great. But that night, then we do a regular performance at We Will Rock You.
Yeah.
And that was actually Susan McNeil's last performance on the show. And at the end, normally one of us, Tristan Avakian or I, would come out and do the solo in Bohemian Rhapsody when the gates would open and this big moment. But that night, of course, it's Brian. And almost nobody knows. And I cannot describe to you how exciting that must have been for an audience member to go and see this show. And maybe some people knew, but this is before everything was written on social media, before it happened. So it was legitimately exciting. And then at the end, for one time only, we performed The Show Must Go On with Brian and Roger. So we got to play with basically half of Queen for about 10 minutes of our lives. It was spectacular.
I'd rewrite your bio and say that you took Freddie Mercury's spot in Queen.
Sadly, they didn't give me a microphone. So, but I was kind of an appendage of Brian May, I suppose.
But can you sing?
Not quite. I'm a decent backing vocalist. I'm not Mick Jagger. I don't have that kind of stage presence in that sense. But I love dealing with an audience, and especially my solo acoustic show where I mostly play instrumentally. But I love the banter back and forth with an audience. I love that far more than any singing.
Well, it sounds like you've come a long way since 1990 when you were singing doing the national anthem at the Dome.
Yeah, it's honestly, like I said, it's a wonder I became a performer because there would have been zero indication at that time that this was going to be in the cards for me.
Wow. So how do you transform from somebody who almost is like a deer in the headlights almost possibly to somebody who's performing in front of like 1 million people Queen songs?
Yeah, well, it's obviously not overnight, and you learn from mistakes like in anything. And I think, so the first time I really did a proper solo show was about a decade ago now. And I remember I had my jokes written out in long form on cue cards, crib notes type thing. And just because I was doing so many things, I was playing 5 and 6 instruments, and the show was being streamed, and there's a video screen. I always have the album covers behind me of the songs I'm playing. So, but for your first time doing it, you have to bit off more than I can chew. But over time, you just get comfortable with it. I worked on a cruise ship, and I did 6 shows a week, basically playing for American tours were my guinea pigs. So you do this 6 times a week for months at a time, and you get comfortable speaking with an audience. So it doesn't happen overnight.
And people who are afraid of public speaking are like deathly afraid of public speaking, right?
Apparently, they have done studies, and there are more people who are afraid of public speaking than there are afraid of death. That's crazy.
But this cruise ship that you were working on back in 2015, you kind of put in some reps and you shook those nerves out completely.
Well, yeah. I mean, I walked in with about 20 or 30 pieces in my repertoire, and 6 months later, I've got 200 because I took requests from the audience members. And sometimes you're playing in just a little pub for 20 people, but sometimes you're playing in a theater type atmosphere for 200 people. So in the smaller ones, you can kind of workshop your things.
Sure.
And so basically what happens is I start taking requests, and people give me their little bar napkins, and so you come up with little jokes, and it's just okay, but the song title, artist name, and no phone number. Ha ha ha. So people like that. And then people started requesting a lot of Pink Floyd because they were English guests. And so they'd ask for, can you play Time? Can you play Money? Can you play Us and Them? And I start realizing, wait a minute, I just have to learn 2 more pieces. I can play the whole album. And this is where this all begins, where now I play complete albums of all kinds.
Is this classic albums live?
Well, no, this is me doing a solo acoustic thing. This is completely me.
Okay.
But I did play with Classic Albums live. I did 3 different albums with them.
It's hard to track your whereabouts here. Okay, so you definitely were part of the company that is Classic Albums Live back in like maybe before the cruise ship, but
before and after, it was on and off.
Like so Led Zeppelin 4, for example, which was like when I was in like I don't know grade 8 or 9 or something like that. It was like mandatory to pick up the Led Zeppelin 4 CD. Like this was like a mandatory prerequisite. There were like these certain classic albums you had to have. Like you had to have Bob Marley's Legend, for example. But there were these certain albums you had to have, and Led Zeppelin 4 was one of them. So you would, I believe this would be your first show, but you would basically play all of Led Zeppelin 4?
So basically the format of those shows is the album is played with no speaking between songs. It's literally like watching a classical recital of everyone dressed in black and playing the album. And then the second set is way more informal, and then there's banter with the audience. And then it's just a greatest hits type set, or sometimes deep cuts in about another hour of that artist. So it was a lot to learn just to do one show, but I got hired to do both guitar and mandolin and keys. So it was a big learning curve. But I grew up. I loved Led Zeppelin. I loved Jimmy Page. I mean, still do. He's a brilliant arranger and composer. I mean, he's one of the finest, obviously. But I grew up with his playing, and just that was a huge part of my education and learning how to play the guitar. And then I got to professionally play a Led Zeppelin show, and it went. Jeez. I still remember the 2 notes I got wrong, and I still am angry about them.
You're
just a
haunted.
tiny little bit of just those 2 little notes. One was in Battle of Evermore on the mandolin. And it's not even that hard a thing to play, but it happens. You end up in front of an
Does
audience.
anyone notice except you? Like is this one of those things where nobody has a clue you screwed up?
Probably not. Of course not. I mean, if it's so egregious that most of the audience notices, you probably shouldn't be there.
Right.
So, but that said, that's even that's unfair. Just people are human. Just I've seen even masters of the instrument like John Petrucci from Dream Theater make mistakes. Even these guys are human.
The Petrucci family owns Palma Pasta.
Get out of here.
I wouldn't make that up.
Is it that Petrucci or a different Petrucci?
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm going to plead ignorance on that one. But it is just fascinating that it's the same surname as that place. So let me do this now because I'm going to play some. I want to hear, you're great. I want to hear some of it. I'm going to play some.
Let's have it.
But first, I'm letting you know, Mr. Wegner, that there is a lasagna in my freezer for you from Palma Pasta.
Oh, I can't wait.
And you did get some Palma Pasta at TMLX 15, right?
Oh, yeah.
Was it good?
It was fabulous, of course.
Okay, good. Did you grab a Great Lakes beer while you were at the brewery?
I did not. I was very fixated on the lasagna.
Okay. Do you drink beer?
Not a big beer
Oh,
guy,
that'll do it. Yeah,
but
that'll do it.
I definitely know people who will enjoy the Great Lakes Brewery beer.
Good. I know. Are you going to see Blair Packham during this visit? Have you seen Blair Packham since you left Toronto?
When's the last time?
Because you
No,
were
I
so
don't
close
think
that you were just hanging out in his living room. Like, I mean, I had never visited. I don't think I had ever visit. Oh, I had visited his backyard actually, but I don't think I'd ever been in the house. And then Monica and I came to a house party at Blair Packham's house, and then we were sitting in the living room, and then this tall dude, great hair, and you had different energy. I have a question, and if it's too personal, let me know. But because I find I can be like this. Do you have different settings for like energy levels? Because the Bob Wegner I met at Blair's house was a far kind of reminds me of how I can get sometimes, but I won't use the word manic, but far higher energy person than the Bob Wegner I'm chatting with right now.
Do you know what time it is, Mike?
So let me ask you this though: when you have a mic in front of you, do you put yourself into like you tone it down?
These are such fascinating questions because it's easy to observe these things in other people. And, I'm a pretty self-aware person, but I'm not consciously...
So you're not slowing it down just because you think if you go at your normal pace, people won't be able to keep up.
Well, what is my normal pace? I don't know.
Oh,
It was a wonderful party. It was full of people. We were with Blair. I think we were talking about Stephen Page, and just it was nice conversations all over the place happening. But I'm just relaxed. It's the morning. That was the evening. That's the thing. See, I am not a morning person. I was up a few hours
so we had
ago.
an 11 o'clock start. 11 is early for Bob Wegner.
Oh,
you're a
it
musician.
Can be. Yeah. I was hardwired to not be a morning person already by, age 14, 15 in high school. It was death.
So in a typical day, what time is sleepy time? What time is bedtime for Bob Wegner?
There just is no typical anything. My projects tend to get me up and have me go to bed. And I enjoy being up at night because no one can bother me then, really. And I can really get things done uninterruptedly. But I also love the morning. I love seeing the sunrise. I like to sing, especially this time of year, just as much of the daylight as I can. But those two statements I just made are obviously incongruent.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, I love the sunsets. Just don't wake me up before noon. Sorry. I love the sunrises. Just don't wake me up before noon.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. During the pandemic, I just here's the thing. I love having a cup of tea in the morning and reading a book and all that. But I just kind of combined all these things. I saw the sunrise, but I stayed up until the sunrise. So I got to do all these things. I got to work through the night, stay up until sunrise, have my tea, read my book, and then go to bed. It was perfect. But then I missed a lot of daylight. So that's the only drawback.
So it's entirely possible if we were recording at, let's say, 8 p.m. tonight, I might get a different Bob.
I don't know how different it would be. You know what? If I'm ever going to be so fortunate to have an encore performance, then let's do it in the evening and let's see what I'm like.
Okay,
This will be for science.
Contrast.
For science.
Because, it's hard to see it in yourself. And I do have that difficulty too, seeing it in myself. But because I do this, every day somebody else is sitting there, and sometimes I know the person, sometimes I don't. Like the guy from the Spin Doctors, I met him for the first time at the door. I'd never met him before, so I have no rapport of him. But I had seen you at Blair's house, and then I saw you at TMLX 15. So I feel like I've got a vibe on Bob Wegner, who's just a crazy, talented, creative soul. And then I am listening in the headphones, and I'm like, did Bob did he take a downer or something? And not that I'm saying I want the other Bob. I'm just naturally curious I think I could be like this. You stick a microphone in front of somebody and you're conscious of the fact you're being recorded and I'm not going to edit it. So you slow it down a little bit so that you're, more thoughtful maybe. It's just an intentional, I'm going to slow this down because if I give him my full throttle Bob Wegner, it's going to be just mania.
Well, it's funny. I have so many thoughts as you said that.
Okay, bury me in thoughts.
There. Okay. Oh my goodness. Where do I begin? Red light fever is a lot of musicians, especially and singers, deal with that for sure. But I've done so many interviews, and I've conducted a lot of interviews for my book. I interviewed 20 people, so I've been on both sides of the mic.
This is the Max Webster book.
Yeah. So
what's it called?
Max Webster High Class, and FOTM. Ron Sexsmith did the foreword.
Okay, and we are going to get back to this, actually.
Sure,
I want to talk Max Webster at the end. But so did you get any media training at all in your extensive musical career?
No, my first time, let me think. My first time doing media would have been when I did a second version of the We Will Rock You show, and we were it was mostly an American tour, a bit of Canada, a bit of Mexico, and in some of the American cities we had TV spots. And I know we played. Maybe I was interviewed once or twice for radio. I'm pretty sure that happened. And then I definitely remember being nervous for one of those.
Do you remember what station?
Oh, it was in the first one. Certainly was in Albany, New York, because we were playing
Albany,
in the
okay.
bustling metropolis of Schenectady.
They made a Philip Seymour Hoffman movie about this with that in the title.
Schenectady?
Yeah.
That really rolls off the tongue, doesn't
Well,
it?
that's I won't even say it, but I can visualize the DVD cover. But okay, so Albany. Okay, I thought maybe it was like you're gonna tell me it's Q107.
No, it was no. This was in the States,
Okay.
and I did a couple of these. Maybe one in Philadelphia. It's kind of a blur when you do 30 cities over the course of 40-something weeks.
Right.
It becomes a little bit of a blur. But to answer your question though, I definitely it's something you just settle into. And with each passing one, you do radio interviews when you're promoting your shows, your albums,
Right.
and then my book. And then suddenly you get on breakfast television because I've got a good publicist and got me on that. And I'm sitting there with Sid, and we dorked out about the Blue Jays. And then
Sid Sixero.
Sid was awesome.
And you are chatting about what, about Max Webster?
Yeah, about my book when that came out, and just I was cool as a cucumber on that. I wasn't nervous at all. It's funny. So funny story here.
Yeah.
About what's going on in my head though as I'm doing that. So I'm sure everyone's seen the black and white footage of the Beatles when they go on to
Ed Sullivan show.
Sullivan. And so the second time they're doing that, he performs yesterday. And just for a rock band, a pop and rock and roll band, to have one of the guys go up and play an acoustic ballad was completely unheard of. With a string, with strings happening, because classical music and rock and roll were just seen as mortal enemies, and purists were all, how dare you do this to classical music? But the Beatles are doing this. They had George Martin. He was the grown-up in the room. And so it's a cool thing they're doing. But he goes on, and he's going to do that. And so we've all seen the footage of George Harrison going, for one Paul McCartney of Liverpool, opportunity knocks. And then the curtain opens up, and off he goes. What you don't see, and he has told about, was there's someone backstage. And he's the stagehand who's holding the curtain, about to open it, and he just asked Paul, how you feeling? You a little nervous? And Paul goes, a little. He says, well, you should, because there's going to be about 50 million people watching, and he just rolls it open, and off he goes, deer in headlights. And that's kind of what it can feel like if you don't have time to prepare for it, because of course you know how many people are watching breakfast television. Could be 250,000, 500,000 people depending on the day. But just
Who told you that?
Well, you look up audiences, and
I don't think. Okay, that's fine. Maybe before the internet, maybe. But
you think it's less than that now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what beef do you have with breakfast television, Mike?
It's just no. I'm fine with breakfast.
Are they
television.
not tuning into Toronto, Mike? How dare they?
I literally recorded a 30th anniversary special for breakfast television with the original cast that morning, from David Onley to Steve Anthony to Ann Romer to the sports gentleman whose name will come to me in a minute, but John. But I am a big BT head over here.
Well, and when I was
love for BT.
Yeah, I've been on it multiple times, but that time, just because it's different when you're playing music, you're just playing music and you just do what you do. But when you're on that interview and then you see that it's in real time.
John Whaley, I'm gonna say, is now the sports guy whose name I forgot there.
Okay, everybody write in and let him know if he's right.
John Whaley. And Bud Pierce, the original producer. But okay, so it sounds like you've had quite a bit of experience talking into a microphone, even on television, breakfast television, so not just radio. And maybe through this experience, you don't need to bounce off walls in a conversation. You can kind of slow it down a little bit. So maybe there are two modes. I will say there's one mode of Bob Wegner with a guitar, because Canada Kev is on the live stream, and he's eager to make a Rob Pruce and Bob Wegner show happen. And he says that you're just an absolutely awesome guitarist. So I'm wondering, as we, dive in a little deeper, maybe I'll do a little more psychoanalysis later, and I won't send you an invoice at the end of that, don't worry. But maybe we hear a little bit of this guitar virtuoso that I have in the basement right now.
Oh,
Where
I'm
do I
so
begin?
flattered.
Can I play
Thank you.
some Vivaldi? Where should I start?
By the way, thank you. The check clearly came through.
You know what check hasn't come through?
What?
Now, you're in Montreal, so you may not qualify for this now. But
I've
this
heard about
premier
this.
is supposed to send everybody $200. And it's a bullshit plea to secure votes, as he calls it,
Obviously.
unnecessary. He has a majority government,
Yes.
so he has a mandate.
I know.
okay?
And some of the checks aren't cashing, by the way, which is just gut-wrenchingly hilarious, but do go on.
And FOTM's wife uncovered that story. That's all I can say on that front. But I will say I know there was a postal strike and things are a bit messed up at the post office. So,
Mhm.
but I haven't received my $200 check yet. I'm gonna check for that. I mean, I don't want it. I'm like Abe Simpson. I don't need it. I don't deserve it. But damn it better arrive, and I'm gonna cash it right away. So okay, but can I play some Vivaldi?
Yeah, let's have it.
Okay, so everybody, this is Bob Wegner. I'm gonna listen, then we're gonna talk over it because I wouldn't know Vivaldi if he was at the door. But let's listen here.
Yeah, this is the piece that Leona Boyd says since...
I'm glad you brought that up. You sent in can you tell me a little more about that while we have you in the background, and I'll bring it up in a minute.
Well,
But
yeah. Well, it was her version of this piece that was the first one that I heard. I've heard so many since. And this is what really got me into Baroque music, was her Baroque Favorites album. And so I had to make the string track for this, and I play this. This is a live version of this piece that you're listening to.
this is live.
Yeah, this is a live version I'm playing.
Where are you playing?
This is at the Small World Center on Shaw Street, just north of Queen. This would have been last October.
So this Baroque version that FOTM Leona Boyd performed, that's what drew you in, not the picture of her on a horse. Have you seen Leona Boyd on this horse?
That isn't that album, but I sure have.
Different album. Okay, you probably have a poster on your wall in Montreal.
False. I do not, but I don't rule it out. I'm an open-minded guy. But there was another piece on that Baroque Favorites album that I inquired of her, and she responded to me on her episode. There was this wonderful concerto by this obscure Italian composer named Domenico Cimarosa, and it's a clarinet concerto, and she arranged it for the guitar. And I just want to know if she has charts for this, because I'd love to compare my notes with hers. I think I got
She
pretty
never got
close.
back to us, right? Like, she gave us some answer on the recording, but I think I sent her an email seeking more specifics maybe and didn't hear back. Is that possible?
Entirely possible. Yeah, I should
I might have
ask
to
her again.
revisit this with Leona Boyd. She replies to my emails, but I want to make sure we get these charts.
Yeah, she replied to me once too, so I should just ask her. Because I know I got close, but I'm sure there's just something I've missed, because it's a really quick piece. It's the allegro. It's a tricky piece.
Well, this sounds like a tricky piece. And again, I'm a layman, no expertise, but let's listen a bit more here. You're a talented son of a bitch, Wegner.
Oh, bless you, sir. There's just something so ethereal about some of this Baroque music. It's 250 years old, and it's just timeless.
As timeless as Led Zeppelin 4.
Oh God, yeah. I'll talk about Led Zeppelin all day. I'm a giant Led Zeppelin nerd.
What's your favorite band of all time?
Oh, that's tough. Well, the two bands that have kind of helped me facilitate a career are Queen and Max Webster, of course. There's so many bands I love, though. But the short answer, yeah, those are the two. And maybe I could make a Mount Rushmore of two more. But
Would Rush be on that Mount Rushmore?
ooh, yeah, they'd be close. I mean, maybe Pink Floyd. I mean, I love Led Zeppelin. But
All these
there's just so
obscure
much.
indie bands. Any band I've heard of.
Any band? Well, the Beatles. They have a fighting chance. Actually, you should check them out.
The Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love Steve Howe. He's a brilliant musician. I love Muse, British band Muse. They're such a cool
course.
band.
Okay, so there's something from the last. I was gonna say recent, but probably not as recent as my memory thinks it was. Muse,
Yeah, but you're just listening to Vivaldi. I mean, this stuff is comparatively recent.
That is true. That is true here. Okay, now, did you really open for Tony Levin?
I did, yeah. That was a really cool experience. That was, I think, probably my first proper time opening for a major artist, and I actually was given an encore, and I played a Frank Zappa song.
Which song did you play?
From Joe's Garage, I did Watermelon and Easter Hay.
Joe's Garage. I feel like that's as accessible as Zappa got.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that. And of course, there was also
there's
Valley
the
Girl.
Valley Girl was the hit. Right?
Yeah,
right.
and Don't Need the Yellow Snow. That was, I think, a minor hit.
I co-hosted a show with Mark Hebscher for 5 years. It's been a while now. We miss you, Hebsy, but huge Zappa head, and he introduced me to a lot of Zappa. And when he came over to kick out the jams, there was some Zappa in there. And the more you read about Zappa and the more you listen to Zappa, you realize that this guy was, I think I'm a gifted student. He was, cream of the crop. This guy was bright. As dim a light as I am in that chandelier, he lit the whole damn thing. Smart mofo there. My goodness gracious here. All right. I kind of want to play something else from you, but I wanted to ask you about Changing of the Guard. Like you released a solo album. Album? Somebody told me I say album. Like album.
Yes, they'll still
I feel
exist.
like it should be album.
Album?
Think about it. Like,
let's write to the album people about that. I'm sure they'd love to hear from us.
Did you, as a child, eat pablum?
Negative. What is that?
You know what? I have 4 kids. None of them touch pablum, but I think I was raised on pablum. Like maybe this explains a few things. But album, it's just funny to say bum. Okay, album. You released a solo album called Changing of the Guard.
That's right. Yeah,
So
2017.
2017. What did that comprise of?
Mostly my own pieces. I did a Segovia piece on there too, but the rest was mine. There were 12 tracks. And it's just kind of a combination of all these things that I've been writing. And I didn't write with the intention of making an album, but I hit a point where it's just, okay, I've written 6 or 7 pieces and I should make an album. So I got into a good creative phase around that time. And there was one particular piece I remember was I wrote a string quartet and kind of like one of those Baroque things, and inspired by the Leona Boyd kind of thing, and
Sure.
and Julian Bream and all those cats, and just writing a string quartet with a guitar part. And I brought in the string players and recorded them actually one at a time, which was not what I thought would happen. I thought they'd all come in at the same time and record under a single mic, kind of like the Cowboy Junkies in the church. But no, they recorded
Trinity
separate.
session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful album.
Yeah.
But no, they really came in separately because I remember the studio told me that they had to push it back or rather forward a few weeks because they were going to do renovations, and I had to make it all happen suddenly. And so the string players, just on a short notice, they all came the same afternoon, but not at the same time. So that was a very unique way of recording a string section. But mostly it was just one instrument, but different instruments. I was playing guitar, of course, but I played this Irish bouzouki. I played this East Coast instrument called, what was it called? A Merlin. It's from Quebec, I think, Quebec company, but I remember buying it in Halifax. So
What's that first thing? The Irish what?
a bouzouki. It's got 8.
What the hell's a bouzouki?
It's got 8 strings. It's in 4 pairs. It's kind of the same. I think it's the same tuning as a mandolin. It's in fifths, but a very, very different sound.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful
And
sounding
it's fun to say
instrument.
bouzouki.
Bouzouki.
Yeah, it's fun to say that. Okay, shout out to Bazooka Joe.
Just as fun to play. I promise.
Okay, so I have a song here from you called Looney Tune.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that from this album?
It is. Yeah. Second.
Well, let's listen to some Bob Wegner for goodness sakes.
Yeah. This is the penultimate track here.
At home drawing pictures of mountaintops. Right?
Stop ruining my song. I worked so hard on this. I wrote this. This is really nice.
Yeah, it sounds great in the cans. I can't believe you wrote this.
It's funny. I've never really listened without being hypercritical. I just listened to it and kind of let that wash over me. And it's just, that's a really nice piece of music, and I wrote it. Some of these songs were hard to record. This one I did in, I think, 2 takes. It was pretty quick.
So you got this great instrumental piece. Did you ever think about joining forces with a singer to write lyrics for it?
No, what I did with this stuff, I put it into sourcing firms to, they're the kind of the middleman for people making, TV and film. And of course, it's a bit of a crapshoot, and whether or not they discover you is, it's.
Well, Blair does that a lot, right? Blair Packham's stuff shows up on a lot of. He does a lot of like themes for cartoons and stuff.
Why'd you talking about that? Because some of these pieces I would love to have on TV or in film, but pieces like this, it's a very melodic piece, and I couldn't put a voice on top of this particular kind of piece because the melody is in the guitar playing. I mean, I feel like it's a complete piece as it is, but there is one vocal piece on the album. And it kind of became a bit of a Brian May-ish kind of production with this orchestra of guitars that sounds like it's on an early Queen album. And actually, I sent that song to him, and he loved it. That means more than all the Grammys I'll never win. And then the main theme reprises again. But one of the things I learned from a lot of the music I grew up listening to was you just never do the same thing exactly twice. I reprise that theme, but then I go to this different little coda to finish the piece off.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So you never want to outstay the welcome of anything. You always turn left a little bit.
You're showing great restraint in that. I feel like this could have been 15, 17 minutes.
I have written a 15-minute piece with my trio Euphonic. It's about 6 movements. It's a really cool little piece. We wrote this in our early 20s.
Euphonic?
Yeah.
Who's in Euphonic with you?
A couple guys I grew up with in Hamilton, and well, I met in my early 20s. I'm Jeff Ball on cello and Vince Waters on drums. And yeah, it's a bunch of untitled pieces just called Song 1, Song 2, Song 3. Just like, Beethoven concertos. And that's the longest one. I think it's about 14 or 15 minutes, and it's 5 or 6 movements.
And they call this folk fusion.
Folk fusion, because industry people want to categorize things. So that's the best way to do that in 2 words or less.
It's just yesterday I mentioned the guy from Spin Doctors was here, and his dad was with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. That's how this American ended up in Toronto. And his dad is a cellist. He's passed on, but he was like a world-renowned cellist. And I read the word cellist, C-E-L-L-I-S-T. I read it as cellist.
Cellist.
Because I saw cell phone, and I said cellist, and I realized very immediately, it's cellist.
That's the technical term for prison guards, actually. Little known fact.
Cellist, okay. Wow. Euphonic in there. So I know how I want to close, and not that we're winding down, because I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on this, but I want to talk in great detail about Max Webster. As you know, Kim Mitchell's an FOTM. But first, I would love to give you a measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home. Bob, you finally got your measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home.
What do I need to measure with this, Mike?
Well, I don't need to know the details. Whatever needs measuring, you can take care of it now.
Oh, bless you, sir.
And you got the lasagna, you got the beer. I want to remind you, because this works in Montreal as well, that recyclemyelectronics.ca is available to you if you have any old cables, old electronics, old devices that have ended their lives. You do not throw them in the garbage because the chemicals end up in our landfill. You go to recyclemyelectronics.ca. Got it?
Roger that.
Roger, he's a member of Queen.
Oh, yes. Well, I was thinking more of a pilot to bombardier.
Roger. I'm now thinking airplane.
Airplane, God, what a classic.
Jesus, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's in that scene. Oh my God, that's a great.
I need to
movie.
rewatch that. It's been 20 years. It's such a great film.
See, that's a great movie. But my introduction to this world was The Naked Gun. I'm a little older than you, and I saw The Naked Gun in theaters, and then I went back and saw Airplane. But I thought The Naked Gun was the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah, that's just slightly before my time.
Yeah.
But I've been told I need to watch those films. There were how many? I think the spoof was. I think there was one called Number 2.5.
Yeah, there was 2.5 and there was 33 1/3. But that first one, okay, you're a baseball fan. The Reggie Jackson Must Kill the Queen stuff. Oh my God, you got to see The Naked Gun.
Oh, Reggie Jackson.
And there's like so many like things that I think about often. Like I think about Frank Drebin. Leslie Nielsen is at the airport and there's a mob of people there. And then the guy tells him, oh, no, they're not here to see you, Frank. Weird Al Yankovic is on that plane. And it's this whole like scene where Weird Al comes off another plane and the crowd's going nuts at the airport. It's just little things like that. Like
I need this in my life.
He's mic'd up for this press conference because the Queen is coming and he's part of the security detail and he keeps his mic on as he goes to take a leak in the bathroom. And just this scene alone with the mic he's wearing and the urinal scene, you got to see The Naked Gun.
Oh man.
Okay, that's an order.
Give me a reminder.
You can come back and we can talk about it. So why? Oh yeah, we talked. That was Roger. I'm like, why am I talking about The Naked Gun? I do want to talk about Max Webster, but I just want to say, just before you got here, Bob, I was recording a new episode of Building Toronto's Skyline, which is a podcast from Nick Aini's, and he had this great architect down here, and they were talking about the real talk about the current state of the condo industry, because there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and there's a lot of moving parts, and they're all connected. And right now, there's a lack of market for the many this that are in development right now. Like it's quite a. I think the slogan I heard was "Survive 2025." Like this is where we're
That's
at.
That's dark.
Yeah, well, it's dark if you're trying to sell your condo. I can tell you right now. So there's a supply and demand issue here. There's a missing middle that people are focusing on now, and rentals, etc. There's some pivots there, but it is a fascinating discussion on that topic. And Nick Aini's, again, proud sponsor of this program. Subscribe to Building Toronto's Skyline. I want to talk about Max Webster with you, Bob. You are a Max Webster expert. And I think a good way to segue us over to the Max Webster chat is you playing Lily. Let's play this and talk about this.
So I played a show, that show in last October at the Small World Center. And I find out hours before that Kim Mitchell's coming to my show. And so I had to make a slight adjustment to my set list and ensure I'm playing a Max song. And so I did this one from the first Max Webster album. And at this point, you think I'm nervous, but just, I don't know. I've played in front of Brian May. I've played in front of, I played for Eminem once. That's another story.
You want to throw that at me now before we get back to Max Webster?
That's another story, sure. But you guys remember those memes going around where people saying, here's 10 things and one of them's not true. And I did the whole played for Eminem and everyone thought that.
Like, where did you play for Eminem?
He
will rock you?
He cruised with his kid on a Royal Caribbean ship and he watched us and tried to stay incognito, but we picked him out, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's amazing.
So this is great at the end here. So I get heckled by the boss here. Wait for it.
Man, I can't do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Pretty flattering, isn't it?
Not with that attitude.
That's a good line, too.
Yeah.
In this round, Mitchell.
Used to, maybe. Used to.
Okay, so you performed that version of Lily.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Quit
Just
now. I mean, it's going to only go downhill from here.
honestly, just what is it like to be the artist and someone plays your 50-year-old song, some guy that wasn't born when that came out, and just what a mixture of feelings that must be. But he came and it just cool. What an honor. And he heckled me after my playing of his song. It's very cool. Kim's great.
How were you introduced to the songs of Max Webster?
It was just on the radio. It was on the playlist. Growing up, just you hear the Beatles, you hear April Wine.
Well, here, I'll bring some, because I know when I think of like growing up, and again, I'm older than you, but we both grew up in Ontario. Staples of like, rock radio. Like this song, for example. I was thinking of Max Webster because I had this Oh Canada compilation. It had A Million Vacations was on it.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, A Million Vacations. But then you realize these songs have you've been like April Wine, You've been swimming in these songs all along.
I know, and this isn't even Kim's. This is Terry Watkinson's song. It was one of the biggest hits they had.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic song.
Right. Although it reminds me of another song. It reminds me of ever since, was it Gone So Long, You've Been Gone So Long, You've Been Gone So Long.
Which one came first? I don't know when that one was recorded. But just everything about
We'll let
this
Canada
song.
Kev tell me on the live stream. Canada Kev, find out for me.
Just this is so well produced. Just the melodies, I mean everything,
It is
the
well
arrangement.
produced.
It's a beautiful
It's got a
sounding
yacht
track.
rock vibe to it. It was like so
Yeah.
well crafted.
But these key changes, and I mean, that's not so much a key change, but just these little unexpected left turns. This is what I grew up listening to, you know. And then here's a diminished 7 chord. Just who does this in pop songs now? It's a beautiful song. It's just perfectly crafted. The great hook, just everything about this is great. And the layered guitar parts, just, you know, beautiful.
So you appreciated the musicianship in this band, Max Webster. Now, I find
Yeah.
Max Webster an interesting band to focus on because they're sort of like the Kirkland brand Rush. Am I crazy to say such a scandalous thing?
Oh, get out of your basement. I'm so deeply offended. No, they were just, well, they kind of started at the same time, really. I mean, Rush were kind of a bar band a little before Max were, but they were, I mean, Max were just barely beyond, or just barely behind, I should say.
But why
Max
did
Webster.
Rush have such a global commercial success that seemed to elude Max Webster?
Well, it's the music business. You know, there's the great Hunter S. Thompson quote. The whole the music business is a dark and shallow money trench, a long plastic hallway where pimps and thieves run free and good men die like dogs. There's also a negative side.
That's funny.
It's the music business. But it's just Max Webster were every bit as good and interesting, unique, creative as Rush, but in a different way. They had a sense of humor that I would say that's where Rush got their concert sense of humor from, was from having Max Webster open for them 200 times.
Yeah.
'Cause Rush were
they're
very
forever intertwined.
They
yeah.
are. Well, because they were such a serious band when they were playing in the 70s and early 80s. And then as soon as Max Webster breaks up, then they start doing the whole, okay, we're going to play The Weapon and let's all bring on our 3D glasses, which is a Max Webster lyric from Czech. And so that you watch on the Grace Under Pressure tour in Toronto video, and everybody puts on in the audience their 3D glasses. That's something, you know, that Max Webster would have done with their audience, you know, because they were the funny band. Rush were the serious guys.
Right. And am I right that you got to perform this at a gig in 2015 with Terry Watkinson?
Oh God, yeah, it was at the Musidium, run by Donald Kwan. That's at 401 Richmond. It was a really cool space if you've never been. I don't even know if it still exists anymore, but it's a really, really cool space with all these world instruments, and it was a shop by day and a music venue by night. And it was a bit before Christmas, and about 10 years ago, and I got a call saying, you know, Mike Tilka can't make it. Can you play bass for Terry Watkinson? I said, sure, I'd love to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and just a quote I'm going to read from Paul Kersey. He saw you play that actual Lily. There's a video of that Lily he saw, and he loved it. So there's some more praise from the drummer.
It's pretty wonderful. I know. I'm in touch with all the guys in Max in one way or another, and I'm just so lucky. There are so many people who write biographies about bands, but the biographer and the subject butt heads, and just everybody in Max Webster in one way or another was great and helpful, and just no real serious issues with anyone. It was such a great thing to do.
Well, we're going to pivot to specifically High Class, which came out, less than 2 years ago.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Year and a half ago. But it is, you know, worth mentioning on this topic of Max Webster and Rush that you have appeared in a film, because there was a documentary directed by Tom Gordon about the history of Battle Scar by Max Webster and Rush, and you're one of, I guess, a talking head on that thing. Yeah,
that was great. I filmed that in a living room in Guelph because Tom he had a band that did a cover of Battle Scar, and to give it a whole new meaning, and made this video with this, you know, indigenous American kind of thing going on. It was a really cool take on the song. And then they did a documentary about the making of that and the song as a whole, because especially for Americans, just even a ton of Rush fans do not know that the one time that Rush ever performed or recorded as a whole with anyone else was with Max Webster at Phase 1 in 1980. This is one of the earliest Max Webster songs from 1973. It was one of the first songs that Kim and Pi Dubois wrote. But then it just kind of grew into this larger thing, and then they started playing it again on tour, opening for Rush. And the guys are side stage watching from stage left or whatever and just saying, if you guys record that song, we'd love to do that with you. And they had the vision for it. And then lo and behold, it actually happens. And there they are. So you got Jack Richardson, the Guess Who's producer, with a baton in the middle, just basically being the referee between Max Webster and Rush, and just the technology to get two 24-track boards jury-rigged together in 1980. No one had ever done that. It was an insane technological achievement, never mind the musical achievement of this incredible song. So Tom did this great, 15-minute documentary on YouTube about just the making and the history of this song. And yeah, I'm a talking head in it a couple of times.
Cool. The only other time I can think, and this doesn't really count because she was kind of a hired gun, but Amy Mann is on Time Stands Still.
It's one of my favorite Rush songs. It's such a good track.
But I don't even know, I did look into it because I'm like, oh, that's the only time I can think of where you hear a woman's voice on a Rush song.
I'd say you're correct.
So, and Amy Mann, of course, Till Tuesday and big deal, and I'm a big Magnolia fan over here, and it all kind of ties together. And she's married to Michael Penn, I believe. I believe so.
Oh.
I believe she's married to Michael Penn, who is a hitmaker in his own right, great musician, but who, of course, Sean Penn's brother.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Penn's other brother, who's Shout Out to Ridley Funeral Home, no longer with us, was in a movie with Stu Stone. Great FOTM. So that's Chris Penn. But okay, so back to Michael Penn, Amy Mann. I think they just they wanted to hire a woman for this part, and I don't think they necessarily targeted Amy Mann. I feel like I think it's just sort of like they got Amy Mann, but I don't think this was like, hey, let's do something with Amy Mann.
Truth be told, I don't know the story of how that all came together.
Next time there's a documentary on Time Stand Still, do a little homework, and you'll be the talking head on that one too.
Oh, maybe
you're
I
the
should.
go-to guy.
Oh,
You're the go-to guy.
I do get calls for these things, though, which is interesting. And truth be told, sometimes I take them and sometimes I don't because, for instance, when Taylor Swift was in town, I don't know who is coming to bat for me, but I get the phone call when something like Taylor Swift happens, and then radio stations want to interview me about the significance of this. And one time they wanted to compare it to Woodstock. Then
you know what you're
goodness,
getting?
yeah.
You're getting Eric Alper's leftovers.
That's a leftover? That was a fun conversation. That was actually really great. It's funny.
I'm just working in some Alper jokes here because I did have it again. That was my fifth reference to Eric Schenkman yesterday, but he performs every Wednesday at the Grossman's Tavern, and Grossman was Alper's grandfather.
Oh my goodness, tangle web we weave.
There you go. But I want to talk High Class specifically here,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So, like about a year and a half ago, you release High Class. If anyone listening is interested in anything to do with Max Webster or Kim Mitchell or even Rush or whatever, High Class, can you still get High Class?
Unfortunately, no.
I just sold it and you can't even get it?
Good news, it sold out in 6 months. People love Max Webster. I printed 1,000 of these and they sold out. So now I'm doing...
Did you think about, doing another print run?
Oh yeah, I'm doing a second edition. I'm working on it now.
When's that coming out?
I'd imagine by the fall. So yeah, if anyone's got deep pockets and wants to help finance the printing of the second edition, because you have to, as a self-published book, you have to put the money up to the printer up front. So if anyone loves any of these aforementioned artists and feels like they want to help,
have
out
you
with the
talked to
loan,
Martin Popoff yet? I feel like
Of
this
course.
is his realm.
Yeah, well, he was the kind of the guy that inspired me to do this because he did a paperback on Max Webster called Live Magnetic Air, and I just thought, I want to take this a step further. And Martin was super cool, and he was very supportive, and Martin's great.
Also an FOTM, okay, Martin Popoff, and I know he's written a million books.
Yeah.
All the rock fans know Popoff, but Rush, he's written a bunch of Rush books, as I recall here. But you wrote High Class, and this is the Max Webster book. And is it one of those books Kim Mitchell would endorse, or would he distance himself from High Class?
He was, I think, a little hesitant at first, and but he came on board. Once he saw it, he thought this is great, and he just, I gave him a few copies of it. We went through it, and so we got together at a Japanese place in his hood. He's around Blue and Royal York, and And of course, to which a friend of mine, Luke Jackson, quipped, "Might as well go for a sushi." But we went, and just Kim was. I met him so many times.
So wait, Kim Mitchell's Royal York and Bloor?
Something like that, yeah.
The bike ride intersection at least 4, maybe 5 days a week.
Yeah, well, he's now and again you find him at the music store on the corner there, run by my pal Lou.
I'm taking notes over here. Okay, shout out to Lou.
But yeah. So, but yeah, we went out, and so I just basically I brought the book, and he just leafed through about the first half of the book. We hung out for a couple hours, and a lot of the older musicians, when they're in legacy mode and all that, and they're looking back and reflecting on their careers, very often they default to saying, "I don't have a great memory." Which is it's funny. I just listened to the Robert Lawson episode you did with him talking about Randy Bachman's memory, or whatever euphemism for memory you wish to use in Randy's case. But so often though, I mean, it's just legitimately people forget things that happen. Making up things or stretching the truth for current marketing is one thing, but sometimes legitimately people forget things that happened 50 years ago. And I'm kind of in the middle of all this now because I've done all kinds of interviews with people, and just you hear the same story from 4 different people, and it's 4 different stories. And I don't reckon that 3 or 4 of those people are trying to lie, just because memory isn't it isn't just a tape machine. It's
a copy of a copy of a copy.
It's a copy of a copy, and it's distilled by our emotions over time.
And shockingly unreliable.
Oh God. So you kidding me? When things like 9/11 happen, they have massive studies with people, and they bring them
Malcolm Gladwell. We heard the same podcast.
Malcolm Gladwell. So so I don't even need to get into this, but in case no one's heard this.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Finish that thought,
This is so good. Basically, these major events happen. This is always an opportunity for a study, and they bring people in about a month later, and they ask them, so who were you with when you found out? Who was the first person you called? What was the next place you traveled to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they bring people in again a year later, and 5 years later, and 10 years later. And by 10 years, 70% of people's memories have changed.
Yeah.
It's just so fascinating to me.
It really does, because I feel I have vivid memories. Like I can remember exactly where I was. I remember who told me about the first plane, because I heard about the first plane on the radio. And I remember tuning in. I remember exactly where I was streaming what from the office in Thornhill I was at that day, September 11th, 2001. Like I have these vivid memories, but I just assume these to be true because I've had these memories since 2000. That's 24 years now.
24 years.
But I wouldn't trust these memories.
That's the thing. And when you realize that our memories are inherently flawed, then you just don't get so precious about them. And that's why I'm not so bothered when now and again someone has just a recollection. Maybe they're just mixing up 2 dates,
Peter Gross kicked out a song. He, Mamas and Papas. He was saying, I used to listen to this song when I was delivering papers when I was whatever years old. And at some point I'm like, well, Peter, that song didn't come out until this year, and you were already this many years old. So there's an example where, like, he's got this memory of listening to the Mamas and Papas as he delivers papers as, like, a 9-year-old or whatever, and it didn't happen. Like, he's conflating things.
Yeah.
But it's like the flavor of the story is intact,
yes.
And, you can be the pedantic, and to me, that's different than printing the legend, right? Like, this is just simply, like you said, we have... Our memories are, I said copy of a copy, and unreliable, and they conflate through the years, and different memories get combined with other memories and attached to others, and different details get morphed and changed, and that's called being human.
It's just life, I know. So meanwhile, here I am with Kim Mitchell, showing him his book, and to me, I'm the historian, I'm the biographer. He is, in his mind, perhaps, this is a scrapbook of my 20s, and he has a whole other trip to this than I do. As the person who put this together, for him, it's a whole bunch of stuff that he either hasn't thought of in 40, 50 years or hasn't even seen. He hasn't seen so many of these photos. And then he's going through them. But he remembers every guitar and where he bought it and for how much and how much he sold it for. And then he's going through this book, and then he says, oh yeah, this is my, this is this guitar and this is that guitar. And then he gets to the Massey Hall photos, the first time they headlined Massey Hall. And again, this is the guy who claims, as many of these types do, just, hey, I don't have a great memory. And then he looks at this one particular photo. He says, oh, that's Massey Hall. And I'm playing my Ovation acoustic, and my head is slightly tilted back from the mic, so that must be the last note of the song Words to Words. I said, Mitchell, you are never, ever allowed again to say I've got a bad memory, because he was completely accurate.
You jogged it out of him. That's why music takes you back,
Yeah.
photographs, they take you back, and they trigger things. You said off the top of this episode, I haven't thought about this in years.
Yeah.
Different long-form conversations like this, you start to, paint your picture.
Yeah, and that's memory recall. That's a whole different thing from just memory.
Right.
When you see the picture, something triggers the memory. Of course, it's all in there somewhere. There just has to be a reason for it to come
Fascinating.
out.
And when you had the release party for
Yeah.
High Class,
Mm.
a coffee table book available, not available, but another printing's coming. So
That's
stay
another
tuned.
story to come. Yeah,
Wait, do you want to drop like a website address? Or
Yeah, it's at highclassmax.com. So you can sign up for the second edition.
Okay.
And I've got about 200 something names on it. So there's definitely people who want it.
Highclassmax.com.
Highclassmax.com.
Is Robert Lawson on the list, or he's already got his copy?
Ooh, that's a good
He's
question.
got to sell it. He manages a record store at Cloverdale Mall. They should be selling High Class over there.
Oh, yeah, the Sunrise. Yeah, second edition. Maybe I'll get some on consignment or something with him. That's a good thought.
Do a in Cloverdale Mall signing before they bulldoze that place. Okay, but how many members of Max Webster attended the release party?
5. And a week earlier, it was 2.
Well, how many did not attend? Because I'm not sure how many people are in Max Webster.
Well, there were different periods. It's just because for this album, you have these guys, and there were only 2 consecutive albums where you had the same lineup. And so basically 5 of the primary guys that played in Max Webster were there. So Kim and Paul Kersey and Terry Watkinson, Dave Miles, and Gary McCracken. So 4 of those 5 guys played on Let Go of the Line. So those guys had not been in a room together in 43 years. And I felt like I got the Beatles back together.
Amazing, you
Yeah.
did that. See, wait, look at you. By the way, so Let Go of the Line. I played it already, and then I always think of that Chilliwack song. So let me just play it again off the top. Hold on.
Sure, let's have
'Cause
it.
we have some answers here from our crack researcher, Canada Kev. So I hear this. What year did this song get released? Do you know? Or do
That's
I got it?
79.
79. Okay, so this song's 79. Gone so long, you've been gone so long, you've been gone so long. Ever since I met... So this is, the song I'm singing is My Girl by Chilliwack. According to Canada Kev on the live stream, Chilliwack releases My Girl in 1981. Max Webster was first.
First to the finish line.
But again, I got to play them kind of back to back.
Okay,
But
go for it, yeah.
Ever since I met you, my girl. Yeah, I can't sing. either.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
I will not be. I'll be the singer over your instrumental here. So bring this down. One fun fact, because you mentioned Massey Hall a moment ago in the picture of Kim Mitchell, but you played Massey Hall.
Yeah, I'm about to play Massey Hall again, actually. I'm going to be part of a thing called Rush Fest. It's going to be on August 1st.
This is massive. Does Rush Mike know about this? Does James Edgar know about this? So Rush Fest. Do you know who else is on this bill?
Oh, yeah, Jacob Moon, Dave Barrett. Actually, I actually took a couple of notes here. Who else is on the bill?
Wow.
There is. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to remember, but yeah, there's a couple of tribute bands that are on it. It's basically everybody getting to play a few songs, I guess, and it's just going to be kind of. I'm imagining it'll be kind of like a Star Trek convention for Rush fans, and they're going to fill it.
And there's
Massey
so many
Hall.
Rush fans.
Oh yeah.
That's incredible. Will Alex Lifeson or Geddy Lee be appearing at?
Do not know. I do not know at this
that's
point.
That's
of course,
the big question.
that's the
here.
hope. I was at Massey Hall for when they did the spoken word event for Getty's book, which was a beautiful experience.
Was that Strombo who did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was first it was
I
Alex.
wanted that gig, but they gave it to Strombo.
Well, he famously was one of the very few people to actually get Neil Peart to open up in an interview. It's an amazing conversation if you
the
haven't
Red
seen
Chair
it.
show
Yeah.
on CBC.
Yeah, that was really, really good. And he goes through moving pictures one track at a time. It's so good.
Wow.
But yeah, to answer your question, I played Massey Hall with Classic Albums Live. We did Queen and at the Opera. And we had a large choir. There's about an 11-piece band and an army of 5 guitars. It was a really cool show.
You know, you're a cool guy, great musician, love this chat, but you're tied to something else in the TMU, the Toronto Mike Universe. I'm going to ask you about on the way out here.
Ooh, let's
Okay,
have
so not long ago, Jeff Woods. I won't even do a Jeff.
That sultry baritone, who can do that?
Hi, Mike. Mike, oh my goodness. Jeff Woods was doing a crowdfunding, he was raising money to publish his book, Being Bi. And he was going to open up and talk about his being bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, I think I get credit. I got to see if I'm in the book. You might know. I'm going to explain that in a minute.
I edited the book, of course I know.
So, I know. So that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Come on, you just spoiled everything. I was going to build it up.
Game over,
so
game over.
Being Bi, available now?
Oh, it's been out for a couple of months.
My apologies.
Yeah.
I got to get Jeff Woods on for the update. But he raised enough money to publish Being Bi. You edited this book?
Yeah.
Is it a good book?
Yeah, fabulous book. He's such a thoughtful guy. So he does the history of bisexuality going back to Abraham Lincoln, and
Abraham Lincoln was bisexual?
Hell yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Big Abe. And so
does he use a Ridley funeral home measuring tape? All right, continue.
Abraham Lincoln. I believe that's slightly anachronistic. Perhaps he predates Ridley funeral home.
Oh yeah, 1921. I forgot. Pillars of the Community. Okay.
Yes.
So. Great book. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there,
Yeah.
but I threw in a dick joke because I'm
should. Well, come on.
Just a child here. But you enjoyed, not just because it's your job to edit it, you legitimately enjoyed reading Jeff's prose.
Not everything that you're given to edit is great, but fortunately, everything I've edited so far has been great. And I hope that's always the case. But yeah, Jeff's book, he's a super thoughtful guy. The history of bisexuality, the current affairs of bisexuality, and of course his own personal experience of it. And his kind of take is the whole, hey, if I'm the biker classic rock radio guy, and I can come out as bi, then anyone can, because he says, because the research is there, the whole LGBTQ, there's more B than all the others combined. And apparently something like a quarter of people under 30 now identify as bisexual, which probably means they always have, but now it's just safer to do so.
That's without a doubt that it's safer to do so, without a doubt here. Now, is there a part of this book, and I need to get a copy. I'm so sorry I'm late on the Being Bi. I was there for raising the money, and then I took my eye off the prize here. But does he speak to the fact that he reveals his bisexuality public for the first time on Toronto Mic'd?
I'm trying to remember. I know we
wouldn't forget a thing like that.
I know we spoke about it. So
did it make the book? This is a very important.
You know what? It's entirely possible it's in the book. It's funny when you
did you edit it out, Bob?
When you're doing the book. See, it's funny. Again, about memory. This is a recent memory, and when you're in it and you're doing the thing,
right,
you have a whole different connection to it. So you get this. So the last Metallica bassist, Jason Newsted, he was once on an interview, and they asked him, "What is your favorite song off the Load album?" And he says, "I don't even know what songs are on Load or Reload." He said, "You're in it, you put 100% of yourself into it, and then you disconnect from it." So I've not yet read that book. When I read Being Bi, now that I've edited it and I've just spent some time away from it, then for sure I could instantly recall if that was in there. I don't want to say for sure that it was, but I think it is.
Oh my goodness. If anybody's read it, let me know if I'm in the book here. So on our way out here, I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and we're going to take a photo by Toronto Tree. Long overdue. I think it's been a couple of summers since I don't know when I met you in Blair Packham's living room, but I'm glad I did.
Was it last summer?
Well, I'm glad. TMLX 15 was June 27, 2024, and I'd met you before that. So maybe it was the spring. Who knows?
That sounds about right, yeah.
So, but it was good to see you. See, that memory's intact because that was my 50th birthday, and I received the kayak, so I'll never forget that day. And what an amazing day! I was so happy to see you there. So on our way out, though, when do you return to Montreal?
Oh, tonight.
Oh, tonight you're back to Montreal.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are you up to? What's the life like? What is going on? And can we expect anything else exciting? I mean, a second edition of your
High
book
class.
on High Class.
I'm working on
Max
that.
Webster?
Well, there is one thing I'm working on now, and I think this is going to be the first time I talk about it in any public way.
You didn't mention it on Bob's Basement?
No, because this is a very, very, very new thing. So it's been on my mind for years now, but I'm finally pulling the trigger on this. It's I read the story about Paul McCartney's Hofner bass, the original one that went missing in 1972, and it was found, and it was seen in public at his last concert of his tour last year in London, and his tech brings it on, And he says, yeah, this is my original Hofner bass. It was found after over 50 years of going missing. So I love these stories. And Peter Frampton got his legendary Les Paul
Randy
back.
Bachman told a
Randy
similar story.
got his Gretsch back, and all these great stories. Jimmy Page's Black Beauty. So they're all fantastic stories. And Kim Mitchell had a Gretsch guitar that was stolen after a gig in Hamilton in 1975. And I just thought, I got to launch a campaign. I got to do this. If they can find Paul McCartney's bass, then this Gretsch of Mitchell's, this orange Gretsch from the mid '60s. It's a Gretsch Nashville. It's probably just sitting in some basement in Hamilton, and whoever's got it doesn't know that it's just the history of the guitar. It was stolen, but then it was probably sold and sold and sold again, exchanged hands, and now it's just someone's playing it probably. So I've got all the major media I'm about to go to,
Yeah.
but I've got a website up called kimslostguitar.com. And so I really want to find this guitar for Kim.
Can I tell you, I love this premise here, and I love that you're doing this. I love this project. Like, I need updates along the way.
I'll let you know.
So what's that URL, that domain name again?
Yeah, kimslostguitar.com.
kimslostguitar.com.
And so I've got all the existing photos of this guitar. Because it's all early in his life that he had this guitar. His dad bought it for him as a teenager, and he was completely crushed when the other Max Webster members told me this. And very meaningful guitar, because his dad paid $700 in the mid '60s. When a house was $11,000.
Right, no,
that's a lot
of
of money.
It's a lot of money today, actually.
And but he was always seen with that orange Gretsch in the early Max Webster years, and in his bands before Max Webster when he was a teenager. And there's that one black and white photo where he looks like George Harrison. That's a kind of legendary photo when he's 15 years old. And so there's just a small handful of photos and one little Super 8 film of him playing it, opening for the Guess Who in Windsor. And so there's not much documentation of it, but there's quotes from Kim about very specific blemishes on the guitar that would uniquely identify it as that guitar. So I'm going to get it out there specifically in Hamilton, because hopefully it's still there, and hopefully it'll be found.
Love it, Bob. Love it so much. By the way, we talked about Rob Pruce quite a bit, but because he worked in musical theater for so long, and you were on We Will Rock You, did you guys ever professionally cross paths?
Yeah, well, I was on a show of his at the Moonshine in Oakville. That would have been maybe a couple years ago now.
Well, I was with Canada Kev. I went to one of the shows at the Moonshine. Is this with Sandy Horn?
No, this was the other show.
Okay, I missed
you.
So that's funny how close I came though, because I was at the Sandy Horn one.
Well, he couldn't get Sandy that night, so he had to elect to have the consolation prize of Bob Wegner instead.
No offense, I'm taking Sandy at this one. Is that okay?
I'm not offended. I can't pull that off.
You'd make the same choice. All right, this was great. Thank you so much, Bob, for dropping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My daughter's in Montreal right now, so I'm a big fan of that city as well.
Wonderful.
Rob did this song, by the way, Rob Pruce.
Oh, cool.
That's what made me think of him here.
So he gets the exit music.
He covered Rosie and Gray by Lowest of the Low for me, because I'm trying to elude copyright police algorithms, and some success. It's a trial and error.
Mixed results.
Taking another shot at this, but this was great.
I love this. I'd love to come back. This was you're such a great conversationalist. I thoroughly enjoy listening to so many conversations. I listened to your Charlie Angus and Kathleen Wynne, and just such a wide variety of people you have on here. And yeah, you're pretty all right.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,622nd show. Is that right? Oh my goodness, 1622. Amazing.
Who's
beating Mark Maron.
Who's 1623?
I'll tell you in a moment. Oh, I'm running out of song here. Okay. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm very active there at torontomike.com. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. That's Palma Pasta. That's recyclemyelectronics.ca. That's Building Toronto Skyline. And Ridley Funeral Home. See you all Monday when my next guest, Bobby, we're going to find out together here. It is... Okay, a rapper named Socrates. You hip-hop heads know Socrates. Socrates in the basement, making his Toronto Make debut, 1 p.m. Monday. See you all then!